Welcome to the Fifth Trooper Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Fifth Trooper Podcast. My name is Jay Shalansky, and today I have two co-hosts joining me. First and foremost is Evan Trash Panda Bulris.
Oh, that's not my middle name, but I'll take it.
And also joining us today is LJ Talk Polite Pena.
Hey.
Hey man, welcome to the Fifth Trooper Podcast.
Thank you. Good to be back.
How you doing?
Thanks, Evan.
Thanks, Evan. I know.
How you doing?
I do appreciate it. Actually, I get greeted by everybody on the podcast. It's a good way to start. No, I mean I'm generally doing okay. Very excited for Vegas to finally hit here in just under 2 weeks, and
Me too.
There's a lot going on in the community and a lot to look forward to in the next couple months. So just been busy with everything that is Legion.
Yeah, I mean, so we were having LJ on to actually talk about LVO and the next couple months of crazy competitive gaming. But then there was also some news today that broke, two pieces of news specifically. And so it was kind of kismet that LJ was going to be on. So let's talk about that. So first off, LJ, FFG, as in they, put out the release of what on the 24th. So what's coming out on the 24th as far as Legion's concerned?
So basically everything that was delayed should be hitting on the 24th. You've got all four of your personnel expansions, Operative Luke, Operative Vader, the R2-D2, the Crash Escape Pod expansion is what they come in, and then the bunker. So everything that was supposed to hit in December looks like it's coming out basically exactly a month later, which kind of worked out in the end because we were supposed to have two different releases this month, Rex and Dooku, and they ended up coming out right after the new core set, which was perfect because then it helped mirror kind of the original growth of the game a little bit better. So we'll get a handful of expansions all at the same time. I know people are, you might be worried on if FFG can deliver all that product at the same time, but they were able to do it in Germany all at the same time, so I imagine it's going to be the same for the U.S. To me, this is actually a good sign that it's hitting on the 24th, which is technically the fourth Friday in the month. That's a return to what they did normally, and so I know the fall was very concerning as far as like when product was going to be delivered. But if January shows us that it's going to be delivered at the same time that it used to be every single month, hopefully that means then the rest of the year will have a similar trend continue, which means you can now more reliably predict when B2s and the Saber tank and all that is going to hit, as well as when we should be getting vital assets, which is very important for those of you going to Worlds.
Yeah, and I mean, my guess on that is probably it's going to come out while we're at Worlds, if I had to guess.
Right before it, basically. I think Worlds is 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th. So, I mean, it would be it would be right when we were there if it didn't hit the week beforehand. And, I think that's bad because I'm an agent of chaos. And when I watch football, I root for the football. But at the same time, like, it's good because you know what? Worlds is not when you want to play something you've never played before or, test something that you've never played before. So, like, if you're like, hey, this hostage mission looks real good for my deck, but then you go and you play it at Worlds and it's the reason that you lose a game because you realize it might not be the best one for your list, that's probably a good thing that it doesn't hit before the final movement rather of a competitive season. But on the upside, that would be really cool if it hit basically immediately after Worlds for all intents and purposes, because then what's technically year 3 of competitive Legion starts off with brand new missions, conditions, and deployments. And I think there's something kind of nice to that. It's nicely rounded.
It's like a fresh start, right?
Well,
right,
and
I
think
it feels like a new season, which it kind of is.
Yeah, and I think what it does too is it'll slow, like both, so, there's not going to be anything really new at LVO, right? That hasn't been out for a few months. So I think judge calls and like opponents playing, like your speed is going to be a little bit higher because I think most of us are going to be like, yep, I know what that is. You know what I mean? Where if something came out like 2 weeks before a tournament or, right outside the the available time for legality reasons, then you're like, wait, what does that do? Like, I haven't seen that yet. You know what I mean? And so I'm glad, because it won't slow down play. It'll keep things kind of interesting, and I think most of us will be able to prepare. We'll have a very good sense of what's going to be specifically at LVO. We know what's going to be legal there, and hopefully at Worlds we'll have a really good sense, at least a month's worth of time to practice with everything that's legal for Worlds.
Right. I did notice that even though Cassian and Aiden are slated for quarter one in their announcement articles, if you look up the upcoming page, it actually has them in the moment slated for April, as the month that it says they're coming out. So it's entirely possible that we're going to avoid those two as well, which I think is good and bad for the same reasons that I said earlier.
So yeah, so that's releases and what it means for the competitive scene. This
real quick.
Yeah.
LJ.
Okay.
Are you buying the bunker?
Me personally, no. I haven't really bought into the scenario packs yet for FFG. I actually played with a downed ATST here recently, and that was actually more fun than I thought. But I don't play clones, I don't play rebels, so I don't have a reason to get the crashed escape pod. The bunker, while it looks interesting, isn't something that I'm necessarily springing for at the moment. So maybe not as excited for that one.
All right. Jay and I are like, I'm going to get it just because I need more terrain for the store, more or less. So I'll buy it, paint it, and then put it on the shelf so everyone can kind of use it. But we've yet to even ever try the down. Like, I had it, I built it, and it sits at the store for people to use.
Yeah.
So we're back and forth, like, which one of us is going to do it? Let's like take the bullet, right?
Who's going to take the bullet? Yeah, I mean, I like it in concept. And I do hope they continue to develop that kind of stuff. I understand why they don't, because that's additional bandwidth that they have to, devote to that. But I think those scenarios might be a very fun avenue for maybe some of the stuff that doesn't make the final cut. Maybe that's a way to, keep introducing stuff into the game that maybe can get refined and then used later, would be those avenues. So we'll see.
Cool. All right, that's all I needed.
Okay. So the other big piece of news today, and I mean, it's confirmed, we just don't know to what extent, but it looked like there was, they called them quote unquote massive layoffs at FFG, but that it depends. That's all on viewpoint, right? Like who you are. Like massive could be 5, massive could be 30. I don't know. But there was layoffs at FFG. It looks like it was mostly centered around FFG Interactive, and the RP, like Interactive is gone, that whole part of the business.
Yeah, that was apps, things like that.
Yeah, and then maybe part of the RPG teams or all of the RPG teams.
Yeah,
which is also interesting.
The good news is, the good news is that's not our side of the house as far as I'm concerned. So, like, ouch for their employees. And I definitely, we did make an announcement on the Discord about it too, because like we want to be very respectful because it does affect people's livelihood and whatnot. But, I think what it looks like, when you look at it from the top down perspective, is that they may have been trimming some areas that might not have been as profitable for them, and this may be kind of corporate stuff that just kind of happens generally every once in a while. But like, at the same time, it sucks because it is an area of the company that people enjoyed in some way, shape, or form. And I'm just thankful on our side that Evan and marketing, who helps bring the information, wasn't cut. Matt Holland, who does our organized play, he wasn't cut. Alex and Luke are fine, it looks like. So good for that reason, bad for others.
If either of them left, I'm out. Like if Alex or Luke ever left, I'm out hard.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because I think, we just saw the CEO of FFG leave, and anytime in corporate America in general, anytime you see a CEO leave, or, we don't know if he left on his own volition or if he was ousted, but like, you're going to see a shakeup of the company, and maybe these were pet projects of his. This is me just speculating. These could have been pet projects of his that Asmodee or whoever the powers that may be were like, yeah, we never liked these. They were losers money wise. And so we need to cut them so that we can put and redirect our money into things that are winners, that are making money, like Legion, and Keyforge.
Yeah, Keyforge prints money. Jeez.
Yeah,
Right.
that it definitely makes sense. I wonder if any of it at all is connected to Navarro leaving as well, but that would be baseless speculation on my part.
That happened kind of recently too, didn't it?
Yes, very recently.
Well, okay, so baseless speculation. Here's what I feel like.
Woo, woo, get on the train.
Yeah, could have happened. Is that I generally, when you see stuff like this happen in corporate America, and this is me just guessing, is that maybe they wanted to make those cuts. He was like, no way, I'm not making those cuts. And they were like, okay, well, then you can go too. And then we're going to give you a nice way out. You can say that you're moving on to something nicer, but this, that's just how corporate America works.
Yeah.
And then they were like, okay, and now we're going to make those cuts.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I wouldn't be surprised because we are talking about corporate America here and stuff happens.
Yep.
But my hope is that he did get to kind of go of his own accord, but maybe his own accord was realizing his vision was different than, his higher headquarters, and he wanted to take the skills, do something else.
Yeah, I mean, and really, so everybody knows, it's just us speculating. We don't know for sure. We're just things that we know from living in the world. But yeah, so those are the two big pieces of news. Before I move on to LVO and competitive and worlds and all the future that's coming for us like a freight train, I'd like to talk about the little game that LJ and Evan had recently. How'd that go, fellas?
I mean, I had fun.
It was good. At one point, we were both convinced we lost, and we couldn't tell the other that we couldn't make it. We're like, no, you won. He's like, no, you won. And I was playing just my Hoth list. I'd been playing TTS for like 8 hours prior, so I lined up, and I had never played against a guy who plays droids a lot. So LJ showed me what they can do, and I made some mistakes. I think the one point where I just the life drained from my eyes is when you got close with Grievous and you just started blundering me.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta let him off like a Beyblade and just let it rip.
Yeah.
But
old school reference. Love it.
After we played, actually, I do generally have a newfound respect for that Hoth defense force, because I thought it was way more solid than I think I had given it credit for in my mind the first time I had looked at it. Just because you used a lot of elements that you just don't see on the other side of the table anymore. Rebels, or I don't see very frequently.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's I definitely made a mistake of putting my two Mark IIs out way too far, and then I flanked a little too hard with my Tauntauns. They're just too far away to be relevant. And then I even pulled one, and then I was so just assumed that I lost that I threw it on something else instead of freeing a Tauntaun from Dooku's grasp. But yeah, it's actually pretty solid, man. Your honestly, after playing those Mark II battle droids, yeah, I thought they were going to be kind of hot garbage. They're pretty good.
Are you talking about the sniper ones, or B2s?
The B2s. I'm sorry. The super battle
B2s. Okay, yeah, you said Mark II, so I was like, are we talking about first
my bad.
B2s? Yeah, so because this was online, for those of you who might be confused, I was able to proxy the B2s, the new triple red ACM gun. And I've been trying them just to see how I'm going to like them on the table. And I gotta say, the B2 with the ACM has been a very surprising, solid performer for me in the last couple weeks that I've been playtesting them.
I mean, it was like 9 dice you threw at me. It was like,
yeah,
3 black, 3 white, 3 red, and I'm like, oh, excuse me, what? And then you just chucked it, and then it right. They don't surge, but you've got tricks, right? So you were flipping around dice, making stuff happen, and then you're just wiping out a couple of my guys. I'm like, oh, those are good. Those I wrote those off at first just because of the range 2 things with range 2 generally don't see a whole lot of play in Legion, generally in an 800 point format. But those are mean men. They are not nice.
Yeah, they work really well in that list because they are following Grievous and Dooku up. So the list that I was playing is a new double default list. It's got Grievous, it's got Dooku, and then it's got 5 B1s and a B2. So I have 2 of the snipers, 2 of the E5Cs, a rocket, and the squad. So I just kind of keep the B2 squad at the end of the chain. That way it always gets an order from coordinate, but I'm also not wasting any orders. And it just kind of follows them up slowly but surely. And every once in a while they'll pop out and then they'll shoot something. And, when you're hitting them with that triple rainbow, sometimes those hits just they land and you can push a surprising amount of damage through. You make sure a surge token is on them so they get an extra hit through you. It's almost always a surge when you throw that many dice. So, I have a newfound respect for it. I really don't think they're going to replace B1s across the spectrum of droids just because you're throwing away one of your best tools. But I think I will be purchasing at least two of them because I did get to see the models at Worlds and they looked really good on the table. But they're also performing for me in these last couple rounds of games that I've played online. So I give them a solid B in my droid rating scheme.
You give him a single Roger B.
Yes, not two Bs, just one B.
When you put them on in heavy cover, and I was, I'm thinking about what I'm shooting, target priority, and I'm like, wait, I've got to throw like 4 damage before I even see a damage hit them.
Yeah, my favorite thing is to give them an order with Dooku's 3-pip, so then they have heavy cover, armor 1, and a dodge that you have to get through before you start damaging them.
Dude, that's miserable. I mean, it's really good, but it's like, I didn't even think about it because you played them. I'm like, oh yeah, I read the stuff. The same thing like Jay and I thought with stationary guns. Like, oh, those are gonna be trash, right? Dead on arrival. And then they moved up and they like wiped out something. They kept going. You had one hid behind a box, and then I'm like my last ditch Leia coordinate bombardment shot. I'm like, I can't even kill it. I just even if I hit with both, he's just like, yep, okay, take 1 damage, sure. And that was just like another life draining from my eyes moment. I'm like, oh, this is it, huh?
Yeah, they're fun, and I'm looking forward to continue to test them. I don't know if they're going to make it on the final Worlds roster, but I mean at this rate, I'm feeling really good about them. And again, I think they fill a very specific role in that list. Because sometimes it can be very hard for your opponent to focus them. And one of the other things you have to remember is that they do have 2 courage. So if in the instance where you do lose Grievous and Dooku, which even if you're winning can sometimes happen by the final turn, you still have something that you can make your commander that's courage too.
The last interesting point of note was Leia punched Grievous to death, and that was after that. I'm like, well, I got a moral victory at least. Then Dooku did his 1-pip and just went full sick house on my tauntauns, and I'm like, yep, all right, we tried, boys.
Yeah, that's been one of my favorite moves recently is putting Saber Throw on Dooku because
good.
With his 1-pip, you're throwing 3 red and 5 black. So if you can pull off the perfect move, activate before the tauntauns are dodged up, which you should be able to do with Cunning 1-pip, take an aim token and move, or something of combination. There is the potential for you to wipe out a tauntaun squad in one complete go if they have full health. Because that attack would have Pierce 3 on it, so it does negate a lot of defense dice that your opponent is rolling. And if you're close enough to them and they have like 1 wound left, you could also force choke them and eliminate a tauntaun in one go.
You did. You choked out one of my tauntauns. I didn't even think about it. Like the trooper keyword usually is in your benefit on creature troopers.
Yeah.
Then like force choke for one. I'm like, wait, oh. All right, well,
no!
I guess I'll just pick him up. Raga.
Well, and I'll say this for Evan and his list, and LJ, you kind of alluded to this a little bit in the beginning. I'll say that when Evan first put together that Hoth list, I was like, ha, all right, buddy. Like, yeah, that'll be fun. Like, Evan's like, I want to play it for fun. I like themed lists. Like, it'll be fun. But he's been practicing a lot with it, tooling with it, and it's really become a really good list. And it's kind of a lot better than you think it's going to be. When he puts it on the table in front of you, you're like, dude, seriously, T-47 and veterans and the stationary gun? Come on, bro. And then it's like, it just eats you alive all of a sudden.
Yeah, I like it.
Everybody like has no idea what the Rebel Vets do, and they don't do a ton. But surge to hit on black dice with 4 more white dice with critical 2. I usually always get 2 through cover, if not more. Sometimes you get those 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 blessed rolls that are just all paint and it's just nuts. But no, man, it's fun and it works. And I don't know, I get to play a T-47, fly it around, and no wedge, but I guess I'll live somehow.
Yeah, I think one of the the Tauntauns are an obvious buff to that list, but actually one of the parts of it that I noticed was really difficult for me to fight, and I don't think I actually killed in that game. Was actually the dish gun because
Oh yeah, the
what
1.4.
do you do about range 5 as a droid player? You just kind of gotta hope to abuse terrain, some sort of line of sight blocking terrain so you don't get shot, and you can maybe move up close enough to knock it out. But it's
Yeah,
almost not worth it to attack unless you can, deal with it really
one
quickly.
shot. Yeah. Because it'll throw usually 3 over cover. Usually you get 5 with an aim because it's surge to hit on black. So I mean things go bad, but usually I get 2 to 3 over cover. Or it's used to like pick off a sniper who got a little too cheeky. Or I can just hold a back line like it's 70 points, so I don't like if you kill it, because some people will just go for it. They'll put their whole army into it. I'm like, okay, well, it's 70 points for you, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care, right? I had a clutch game with actually Zach that he I had to pivot and shoot one of his tauntauns. It had 1 health left. He Jedi mind tricked it. And I'm like, it's that trooper keyword again. I'm like, oh, I bet you can do that. And then I didn't roll in the off, so I couldn't pivot. I'm like, but there's 2 of them. Like, just, what are you doing, guys? You can't get your both. It's just Luke. Like, but no, it's fun, man. It's I encourage more people to try just odd stuff and see how it sticks. But yeah, the Tons are good. Like they're a good backline unit, but it's actually like it all kind of just gels. So it's just fun.
Yeah, no, I really, again, as I said, kind of learned to respect it after the last time we played it because it brings a lot to bear. And, vets untouched because you're too busy worrying about the Tauntauns or the T-47 are very dangerous because they're surge to hit and whatnot.
Now, here's a hot take. I am upset that they don't have 2 courage. Those soldiers stood against 5 AT-ATs, and you couldn't give them courage 2. I mean, come on, like that planet broke before they did. All right, that's come on, not 2 courage. So after I see like the B2s and the clone phase 2s come out with 2 courage, I was a little I got a little upsetty about that. I'm like, come on, thematically, like sure they got a dodge, I guess, but.
All right. Well, that was fun. So why don't we move into, let's talk LVO. So we're down to just about 2 weeks until it's LVO time. Myself and Thrawn, Ghost Walking, and Endless and Dashes will all be at LVO. We'll be live streaming LVO, so you at home will be able to watch the games if you're not there, at least some of the games. What else is in store for LVO, LJ?
Man, where do I start? There's so much going on that weekend. The biggest thing I want to say is that I'm so excited at the growth that we had this year. Um, I'm starting to nail down all of the last minute requirements here, and I've spent some time in the last couple days really looking at the numbers and what we've achieved. And I think that's the best part of all this is to see how much we've grown from the event that we held last year.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're double in the competitive, plus you got side stuff going on as well.
Yeah, so I was looking at the TTO numbers last night because those are the people that are, fully registered and I can pretty much count on them coming. We went up from 62 players to right now we're at about 112 players for the heats total. So that's, obviously a great improvement. The narrative event should be full at 32, and we're probably looking at close to 40 for the team event. So, just under 200 players. That's obviously really exciting to see that kind of growth in a game when other FFG games, especially at LVO, are not selling as well as FLG Frontline Gaming expected.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be, I think, going into Worlds, this will be one of the most competitive events leading into Worlds that we've seen so far.
Yeah, just looking at some of the names that are coming, looking at the terrain you're going to be playing on, the depth of the event, and making sure that we get one winner at the end of the event who has played and won 7 games in a row to take the day. I think you're going to feel like, yes, we got one true winner at the end of this thing, and I think that's going to be very satisfying.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great, and I'm looking forward. I'll be playing, all of 5th Trooper Squad that's going to be there. We'll be playing and streaming. We're going to be trading duties, and then it's just LVO was amazing last year, so I'm really looking forward to it this year.
Yeah, some of the things you can look forward to is, we really have continued to invest time and energy into terrain. And we also, as people have probably seen, we're doing the tokens again, the order tokens, and those turned out really well. We were able to do something fun for the narrative and the team event players too, in the Sabak card sleeves that you've probably seen online. Those I got my set, which was like kind of our trial set to see if we were going to buy the full amount from this company, and they fit perfectly. They look good, they feel good, they don't feel cheap. So I'm really happy with how that price support turned out. We have Alex Davey coming to comment on games and talk to people and interact with the community. So that's of course very awesome. We're going to be giving away some stuff that I haven't really talked about yet because I wanted to kind of save it for when we got closer to the event. So you might walk away with some Jar Jar themed terrain pieces.
Oh, cool.
If you saw those
That's
statues of Jar Jar in various Greek classical poses, you might be walking away with one of those if you place well in the narrative event. There's probably going to be some mats we're going to give away. We do have a little bit of Legion product that we're going to be giving away. So just like last year, it should hopefully be kind of a big party, and a celebration of this game over the 3 days that we're there for in Vegas.
Yeah, and I'm excited. And once again, you guys can check out our YouTube channel. Subscribe now if you want, if you're not subscribed yet. And we will be going live. We'll be live Friday, Saturday, and Sunday following the competitive matches. I'm sure we'll give updates on how narrative and everything else is going in team, just to kind of just to keep it all encompassing. But yeah, we'll be live from Vegas, which is super exciting. And then we also will be streaming live at Worlds. And so, LJ, what are your expectations for Worlds this year? It is completely different format. A lot of people, a lot of days. What are your thoughts on it?
So, my big goal last year was to go to the LCQ, secure a spot, and make it to High Command, and say that I got to participate in the first High Command that and I think I basically have a similar goal, even though the structure is slightly different. It's essentially the same thing for me. I want to place well on the first day that I go, which is I think I'm playing in the Friday heat, and go at least 3-1 so I make it to Saturday. If I do that again, I'll feel very happy with how I did because I was able to do that with droids, which I'm committed to bringing this year. And so if I can do that, I know people are concerned with the validity of the new armies, and how well they can do at the higher competitive level. And I want to go and prove to people that they can indeed make it to the higher levels of competition. I'm not expecting droids or clones to win worlds. Obviously, it would be awesome if they did, but the other armies have had 2 years at that point to develop, and I do expect one of the two to take that final place. But if I can make it to Saturday with droids, I think I will be very happy with how things worked out.
Yeah, it's just cool, right? Like you're breaking new ground doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and it'll just be it. I think it's inspirational, I guess is a good word for newer players to go, oh yeah, oh cool, so I can because if they're going to do the same thing like they did last year, then the next season's going to start up right after Worlds, right? And so if you see that, you go, oh cool, I can play droids then, awesome, like that's exciting.
Yeah, no, I want to be there to represent the faction and hopefully make enough of an impact to make it to that second day's worth of games. And then I want to see people. I mean, there's so many community members that I enjoy hanging out with and getting to meet and put names to faces and all that good stuff. So I think that's the other part that continually is exciting year after year, or event after event, more likely, of doing this stuff, is just being able to see everybody and hang out with my friends.
Yeah, I would agree. And I've made a point of, especially with LVO and with Adepticon too, I'm scheduling like extra time a little bit on the front and back end so that I can hang with people. Because I mean, you remember LVO last year, like I flew in the night before the tournament happened, and then I literally flew out at like 9 a.m. the next morning, and it was a lot to crunch in. And so, this year I'm going to be on coming in early on Thursday and staying till Monday. And so I'm just really hoping to get to see everybody and hang out. And that's really my favorite part besides Legion.
Yeah, it's going to be quite busy for both LVO and Adepticon, but I did make sure to give myself a little bit more time. I'm getting in kind of in the early afternoon Thursday, so I can take my time getting to the area and getting to my accommodations and stuff like that. So I'm not in a rush. That was one of the problems with last year, was that I got in late, and it took me forever to get to bed that night because I was excited / nervous for the last chance qualifier. So I think that'll be relaxing. I am signed up for the skirmish tournament on Saturday in case I don't make it to the final, or the semifinal, I guess it is. So I do have some little stuff like that planned. And my birthday is actually Sunday, the 29th, which is the final. So hopefully I can.
Crazy.
Yeah, hopefully I can do something fun that day or the night before.
Yeah, that'll be great.
So
cool.
That's
Thanks,
my birthday
man.
gift to myself, is to go to Worlds.
There you go.
Have fun.
Nice.
All right. Well, let's we're gonna take a second here and hear from War Corgi about his new format that he's trying out in St. Louis. Okay, and I am back with Michael from War Corgi. A lot of you may know him just as War Corgi on the different social media or on Discord. But thanks for coming on, Michael.
It's a pleasure to be back, Jay.
Yeah, so why don't we, there's a lot of new people in the game and a lot of new people listening to the podcast, so why don't you kind of walk us through, first, let's start with how you got into Star Wars Legion, and then how you got into the battle reports and everything.
So you want my origin story? Okay, I think that's pretty popular these days. It all started with a guy named Dan Adam from Paint All the Minis. I had been doing battle reports for Warhammer 40,000 and also for a game called Team Yankee for about a year and some change. When Dan hit me up out of the blue, he was starting a collaborative project where he was bringing in content creators together in order to really kickstart his YouTube channel. He had done and still continues to do an awesome podcast called Paint All the Minis, where he talks to various people in the industry. But he wanted to do a little bit more visual. So he hit me up, and as part of that and recruiting me into that project, he sent me the core box for Star Wars Legion. And Legion was a game that I was always interested in playing, but I didn't have the people around me. At least I didn't think I had the people around me, or like the extra funds to really jump into that unknown. But as soon as I opened that core box up and saw the model, saw the cards, read the rule book, I was hooked. And since that time, I've really stopped doing Warhammer 40K battle reports, and my channel is solely focused on creating content for Star Wars Legion because it's a phenomenal game.
Yeah, so what is being in kind of both games and probably both communities, what's been like some of your favorite things about the Star Wars Legion community that's kind of cemented your staying power, I guess, in continued content creation?
So it's definitely the positivity of the community has been mind-blowing, to be honest. I was probably a pretty mediocre Warhammer 40K battle report type guy. We did some interesting things, but it wasn't anything too impressive. But now it's really just taken off. And the community feedback that we get between the older players, the established players, and the new players, it's been nothing but positive. And so I've really enjoyed that part of it. And I got to tell you, what really makes Star Wars Legion work for me is the two guys who are in charge with creating the game and all the new content. Alex, Davey, and Getty do a phenomenal job of tending to this game and interacting with the community. And that is the biggest change between a game like Warhammer 40K and Star Wars Legion. And you can't ask for anything more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the developers are really great as well, and the fact that they're so connected with the community, I think, helps grow the community and make it what it is. But yeah, so for those of you that don't know, you've been doing these battle reports for a few years, about a year now or so, right?
Yeah, we started last October, and I think I'm up to episode 14. We just had our youngest guest ever appear on the channel, and it was a great time.
How old?
He's 13.
Wow, that's great.
And yeah, his dad and him, he has been on like Mini Wargaming, which was a huge channel for Warhammer 40K and some other games. And his dad and him like play games together, which is, everyone's dream. Get to play games with your kid. I think Luke Cook and his dad, of course, are the ultimate example of that. But these two guys are great. And he reached out to me. He lives in the local community, had him over. And next up is going to be his dad. But all in all, we got 14 episodes on the War Corgi YouTube channel, and we got a number of episodes on the Paint All the Minis YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And so, one of the reasons that you're on today is because you have this new project that you launched for the new year, and I don't want to make any mistakes explaining it. So why don't you go ahead and just tell our listeners what you guys are up to now?
So I'm super excited about this, but I think we got to go back in time just a little bit to explain how this generated. When I was over in Germany, I had a good friend named Max Phil, and Max and I created a 3-game campaign series called Battle for the Forest Moon, and it was based on Indoor. And we made special rules for this campaign. It's still very much Legion. It wasn't too involved, but it did provide a narrative and a story to go along with our games. And it was hugely successful. It's posted on the Paint All the Minis channel, and it's something I look back fondly on. But following that campaign, I want to do something bigger. And the way you go bigger is to go with a map-based campaign as opposed to something like a 3-game campaign series. And so what I've done is I've pulled out my Star Wars Rebellion game, which is a great game in and of itself, made by Fantasy Flight. And I'm going to use that map to have a galactic-wide Civil War campaign. And it's utilizing all the players in my local play group who have signed up for this. And then also, we kicked off my Patreon about a month ago, and all my patrons get to participate in this as well. So it's going to be huge. So it's a little daunting, but I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, it sounds really, really cool. And I think like a year ago or so, Evan and I had talked about like doing like some sort of like X-Wing to Legion to Armada crossover, but I'm glad somebody is doing something like that and kind of getting this out there, because I think there's a lot of untapped potential in Legion with more of the storytelling narrative side of things. And I think this might be a good first step for the community to see how this can be done.
Legion is such a great game to play competitively and casually, and it's being based in the Star Wars universe. There's a lot of stories to tell there as well. I think, overall dream is to do the Armada to X-Wing to Legion, but you have to start a little bit smaller than that. That's super ambitious. Trying to get this map-based campaign off the ground is kind of like the next step in the iteration of the massive, massive campaign that you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think we've noticed too that as much as I think sometimes the podcast and some of the community members can be focused on the competitive side, that we really need to think about how small of a percentage of the community out there really is on the competitive side and are more on the hobby/fun side.
Yeah, and I think this, opens up some opportunities for those players to play a different sort of game. Of course, FFG already does that between the downed ATST expansion and the upcoming Escape Pod expansion that'll have R2-D2 and C-3PO. But those are the small campaigns. Again, what we're looking at with this one is 32 different planets. It involves resource management. So as you take different planets, it's going to open up units that you can include in your army list. And so For instance, if a faction controls indoor, if the rebels control it, they have access to more ATRTs they can put in their army list, whereas the Empire will get access to the speeder bikes. And so you're going to see these different planets around the galaxy become battlefields as the two sides vie for control. And we use a pretty, I think it's innovative system where we use the capital ships that come in the Star Wars Rebellion box game to essentially allow the teams to activate different systems and different planets to try to get to them. So it's a part resource management, part making sure you got the right planets as far as the geography is concerned. The Rebel base is located on Mon Calamari, the Imperial base, of course, in the Imperial Center of Coruscant, and it's going to be, numerous turns. This might be a year-long campaign for us. We will see.
And when is the first one going to be out?
So we're kicking off tonight. We're recording on Friday, so it's already going to happen by the time you hear this. And then what I'm going to do is go over on the map the starting positions for each team. And then the two sides will be battling for a couple of weeks. And then after the end of every turn, I plan to release our video on my YouTube channel, kind of showing where different actions have happened on the map and how the status has changed. We're also going to record some of the battle reports and put them up on the YouTube channel, of course, but there's going to be a lot happening outside of that at the local game store.
Oh, okay. That's pretty great. And then you'll just kind of give us recaps or whatever of what happens so that we're all kept in the loop.
Ideally, I'd do it in like the Clone Wars opening voices for the cartoon, with the guy who does like the really cool on Mon Calamari, the Separatists have, but that might be a stretch for me.
Yeah. Well, you could do it. I think it'll be fine.
So one thing I do want to touch on is, I talked a little bit about the map-based campaign and the resource management is we got 8 different missions that the patrons for my channel are going to be able to participate on that are, directly affecting how their two factions are going to do. So if I can go through those real quick.
Sure, please.
Okay, the first one's called Bounty Hunter. And that's going to allow, so when patrons play these games, they're going to play at their local stores or their homes. And they're going to use the faction that they're identified with. So you can be Imperial or you can be Rebel, but it doesn't matter who you play against. Just play a game, take some pictures, and let us know. We're going to put those in the end of round recap. But the first one's Bounty Hunter. And that's going to allow them to capture an opposing character, which means that the opposing faction is not going to be able to use, say, Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader the next turn. And they're not going to be able to use them until another patron from the other faction conducts a rescue mission and effectively springs that character from the control of the other faction. Now, only one character can be captured at any one time, so we don't have to worry about the patrons ganging up and capturing all of the heroes for either the Rebellion or the Empire. But, taking a Luke Skywalker off the board for the opponent for the next turn could be pretty big. We got Commandeer Transport, which is going to give an extra capital ship to your side. So that's going to effectively give you another action during the game turn. And then by popular demand, I added an Armada mission. So if there's any patrons out there who really enjoy Armada, it's called Interdict. And that's going to prevent the opposing faction from using one of their capital ships for the next turn. So you're effectively taking one of those actions away from your opponent. Reinforce. That's going to give you extra supply points that you can use from your reserves when you're making your army list, which is really important. Resupply, and that's going to give your side an extra 5 points of gear for each battle in the next round. That gear is not going to count against your bid, but your list can't exceed 800 points. So you're essentially just, playing logistical officer and giving your team some extra points to play around with. Then we got Sabotage, which is going to deny one reinforcement point to the opposing side, making it harder for them to field things in their force list like they want to. And then lastly, Strategic Reconnaissance, which is going to allow your side to capture one unoccupied remote planet for your faction. So there's a lot of choices there. Already, some of the patrons have lined up and selected their mission. I got Michael Campbell on the Imperial side. He's going to be conducting Strategic Reconnaissance on Endor, trying to capture that for the Imperials. Ron Armstrong from Cocky Rooster YouTube channel has chosen Bounty Hunter. He's actually going to record his game and post it on his YouTube channel. He's now becoming battle report type guy. So if you haven't checked out his channel, you should. And then Hawkwinter on the Rebel side has chosen Bounty Hunter. Now I'm playing Imperial for this campaign, so I'm really curious who Hawkwinter is going after, because it's going to affect our ability to take those planets in turn 2, especially, I've been playing a lot with Emperor Palpatine. I'm hoping we don't get him captured like in episode 3 of the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah, that sounds like a ton of fun, man. I'm really excited to follow you guys on this and see how this works. And I hope I think it's going to go well, but I hope it goes really well, because I'd like to see more of this in the community, and I'd like to see more of these kind of narrative type events. And I know, like, for instance, at LVO coming up at the end of this month, there's a big focus on narrative. They're going to have a narrative event there too. And I'd like to see more of these, I guess you could call them side events if we're calling the competitive, the main event. But like, I'd love to see more narrative focused side events. And I'd love to see more stores pick up something like what you guys are doing and have these like long running narratives that you can come into and play. And okay, now we're on this planet with these supplies. I think this is great.
I'm really hoping this works out. We've gotten a lot of questions whether we'd be doing including the clones and the droids in this campaign. Really, it's too early for them, in my view, to include them, but I'm already looking forward to 2021, where we do essentially the same thing, but we use the 2 new factions to battle it out and reenact the Clone Wars instead of the Galactic Civil War.
Yeah, I love it, man. Love it. And it'll be interesting too with the new cards and everything that have been announced for Legion 2, to see how like you guys can incorporate those too for like hostages or some of the other stuff that was announced there.
Yeah, I'm already starting to think about maybe doing special events throughout the campaign where maybe the Empire's about to complete the Death Star and all the patrons have to combine to play games and start shaping the narrative a little bit more. I'm not quite there yet, but it's something I'm looking at. I think the most important thing to remember when you're making a campaign system like this is, at the end of the day, you don't want to change the game you're playing. So all of these games are just standard 800-point Legion games. What we're really messing around with is the Force organization chart, and not so much that, just the units you have available to build. And one of the things that was really successful about that raid on the Forest Moon campaign is we restricted ourselves to only using units that are on Endor. And one of the things that you run into, and you guys talk a lot about on a 5th Trooper with the competitive scene, is the groupthink and everyone starts using the same units. But there's a ton of fun units in this game. And so both these campaign systems are going to encourage you to use units you might not otherwise play with. It's going to give you a different play experience. But at the end of the day, you're still playing Legion. You still have those same battlefield condition cards. It's just going to be at the end of that game, somebody controls Kashyyyk and somebody's been kicked off of it.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. I'm 100% sold. And, we're really looking forward to, so everybody that's out listening to this right now, Michael's actually going to come on hopefully once a month and kind of give you guys updates as well as to where they are, how it's been going. And, maybe those at home can also kind of pick up this same system and start playing as well. And if you guys have questions that, you want to ask him, if you can't get a hold of him, I'm sure they can get a hold of you through Facebook and all these other places. But if you guys have questions that you want to send in, we can absolutely get them over to the War Corgi channel for you. And maybe even Michael can come on next month and kind of answer your questions on air.
That sounds like a ton of fun. Lastly, we will be producing a PDF at the end of this campaign. We're going to learn some lessons as we go through this. And what I would like to provide the community is a PDF that allows them to essentially recreate this with their local play groups as well.
Awesome. Well, we're really looking forward to it. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about it. And as always, it's wonderful talking to you, man.
Thanks, Jay. And you and Evan, keep up the great work. Listen to your podcast every week. It is the best podcast in all of Star Wars Legiondom. So appreciate all the hard work you put in for the community as well.
No, thanks. And just really quick, why don't you go ahead and plug your different channels? Just, I know you said them already once, but let's just make sure we get them at the end here too, so people know where to go.
Sure. It's the War Corgi YouTube channel. That's where I post all my battle reports that I do here in the studio. That's not quite true. I also post them to the Paint All the Minis YouTube channel. So all of these battle reports are narratively focused. Make sure you're checking out both channels. The support from the community has been amazing. A big shout out to LJ Pena, who came in after Warfare Weekend and recorded a video with me. It has blown the roof off of all my previous records for views, and it's really kind of upped the visibility of my channel. So if you haven't checked us out, make sure you check us out, like and subscribe. And if you're interested in joining us in the campaign, check out my Patreon as well.
Awesome. Thanks again, man.
All right. Talk to you soon, Jay.
That was War Corgi on his new format. Highly recommend you guys go check out all his videos. He's been posting on Facebook. Check that out. LJ, anything you want to leave us on?
I think what I should do at this point is I should put out a couple LVO and maybe even Worlds related reminders, if that's okay.
Sure.
For Vegas, if you're listening to this and you're going to LVO and you're playing in either the Friday or Saturday qualifier, please make sure you turn in your list on Tabletop TO. If I haven't already synced your TTO account to your profile, please make sure you get in contact with me either through the official Facebook page or Discord or the LVO email. And if you're playing in Friday, your list is due on the 17th of January by midnight Pacific time. And if you're playing the Saturday, then yours is due on the 18th, the next night by midnight. That's kind of the big one that I want to make sure people don't forget, because that will help us sort through all of you, especially on Saturday when we have 100 people playing at the same time. That'll help us make check-in nice and quick to get you playing. I also want to remind people that you can view the progress of our events on TTO. You just have to search for LVO Legion, and you should be able to find the Friday games, Saturday and Sunday's events all together, and I'll be posting them on social media and again on the LVO Facebook page. I want to remind people that there is a painting requirement this year for LVO. Please make sure you come with your 3 painting standard, kind of the usual thing that you'd expect at Adepticon, or for 40K and other events. We are representing the biggest Legion event up to date in the world in front of its developer and creator, and in front of a much bigger field of players this time. So we want everything to look good, and we want to make sure your stuff is legal for our tournament. And then last but not least, I want to thank everybody that helped us get to where we are to get this tournament running. Thanks to Jay, yourself, Fifth Trooper, for sponsoring so many things to make the extra prizes and, the little things that really help us look good, from the name tags that people are going to get to hosting streaming for us this year that people really wanted last year. That kind of stuff is appreciated. Thanks to Legion Terrain, who is going to be donating tables that we're going to get to keep and we're going to get to use at Worlds and the other events that Brendan goes to. Imperial Terrain for helping us out with some extra prizes. And to David Ryan Hall, thank you, sir, for doing all the art for everything LVO related. You are the man, and our stuff looks good because of you. And anybody I forgot that is contributing, from our judges to our staff to Emily, my wife, who will be 4 months pregnant by the time LVO rolls around, but is still going to be working the desk because she's champ. It's a community Herculean effort, and it wouldn't happen without all those people, and everybody that helps make those events run smoothly. So, when you see the people, whether it be a judge or staff or, somebody that contributed their time, like, the Fifth Trooper, try to thank them for helping out, because these events wouldn't run nearly as smoothly without them helping out. And it's going to be the same thing at Worlds. Worlds is going to be, probably fairly stressful because people want to do well and enjoy their competition. And don't forget that Worlds is going to have some of these same requirements, and it's all because we want this to be the best event possible, and the best representation of Legion out there. One of my favorite stories to tell from High Command last year is in a pivotal game 3 between two players, that would decide whether they were going on to, an undefeated record or go home. Essentially, they stopped in the middle of their game to teach somebody new what was going on briefly and then continued playing. And that's the kind of community that we have, and the reason why so many people put forth their money, effort, and time to support it is because we're the best community out there in wargaming. Thank you guys for being that.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
That's really nice to say. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I enjoy it every time, Jay, Evan. Hopefully we can get some more games in over the next couple weeks and, get ourselves ready for Worlds. If you see me at an event, whether it be LVO or Worlds or even something else, something local, please make sure you say hi. I love meeting the people of this community and putting a face to a name.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, have a good week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Everyone, stay rad.
Join us next week for another edition of the Fifth Trooper Podcast.
This has been a Fifth Trooper production.